Hello guys, welcome to the Code Patch. My name is Nick and this is your 6th C++ programming tutorial. Now in this tutorial we'll be learning something called if branching. So in the previous tutorial we learned what is if statement and what is a cin function does. So in these tutorials we'll be expanding that knowledge a little bit more and we will be learning something called if branching. So we're just going to branch a lot of ifs to make it look like a tree, alright? Just kidding. Just let me show you on an example, alright? So let's just create a program that asks our user for some value and then checks that value for some other values and do something if it's true or not. So let's just make an integer and name it value and then ask nicely for our user to input. So let's say please input a value, right? And let's just use the cin function, so it lets our user put something. So we're going to say put it in value. So whatever you put it in value. And now we're going to use ifs, a bunch of ifs, to do something with this value. So let's just say for the first if we want to check if this value is greater than 50. Alright, so if value is greater than 50, then you want to open these curly brackets that mark the body of if. So now in here we're going to add another if, which is going to select if this value is lesser than 100. And now inside it we're going to cout and print something like this value is from interval 50 to 100, alright? And let's just put a new line after that. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to increase this value by 10. So how do we do that? Well, you write value and then equals to value plus 10. So what this does is takes this value and basically increments it by 10. So it increases this value by 10. So if, for example, if value was 60, it is going to be, after this line, it's going to be 70. So there is a shorter way to write this, and you basically take this plus and this value, delete that, and here just add a plus before the equal sign. So now this is the same as, let me just commentate it, value, alright, it's really bright so you can't see it really, so value equals value plus 10. So these two lines are basically the same, so they do the same thing. This is just the shorter way of writing all of this. So let's just use this, alright, so because we're lazy. And now once we've done that, let's just add another if and see if this value has gone over this 100. So when we increment it, for example, it was 90 and it goes over this 100. So let's just check that. So we are going to say if value is greater than 100, we're going to cout, but when we add, but when 10 was added, it left the interval 50 to 100, alright? So let's just write something like that. And now for else statement, so you see this is the body of this if, and this, all of this is the body of this if right here, and all of this is the body of this if right here. So if we don't go into this if, so if this if is false, then we won't be checking any of these. So if we have a value that is lesser than 40, it's going to skip all of this, alright, and just end the program. So let's just write an else of this if, of the first if. Let's just say else if it's not greater than 50. Let's just see out. Let's just see out value is lesser than 50. Alright, so that is the way we branch this if into multiple ifs and check multiple statements. So let's just now compile and run this. Alright, we have an error. Let's say, alright, so we don't need this semicolon here. Let's just now compile it and run it, and it should do. Alright, so it says please input a value. So let's say we input a 60 that is greater than 50, right? So let's just input 60, and it's going to say this value is from interval 50 and 100, but it's not going to write this because 60 plus 10 is 70, and it doesn't go over 100, and it doesn't leave this interval. So let's just now try with something like 95, and now it's going to say this value is from interval, but when 10 was added, it left the interval. Alright, so first our value came here, and this was true, right? 95 is greater than 50. Then it came to this if, and this was also true because 95 is lesser than 100. Then it wrote this, and then it added 10, and then this if checked if the value was over 100, and 95 plus 10 is over 100, so that's why it printed out this too. So what is left to, alright, it looked good, alright. So what is left to check is if the number is lesser than 50, so it should come into these cells, alright. So let's just run it and input like 40, and it said value is lesser than 40. So now if we input basically anything that is lesser than 50, it's going to see out this, alright. So let's just try minus 10. So you see, it's always going to say this value is lesser than 50. And let's just make here another if to check if the number that we entered is a negative number. So let's just say if value is less than 0. So if that is true, then let's just, I don't know, see out a number is a negative number. Alright. And let's just delete this and say else. So if it's anything else, then print out it's not a negative number, but it is lesser than 50, right? So I know this is a little bit complicated now, but with just a little bit practice, it should go really easy, right? So let's now just run this program and try, for example, inputting 40. So it's going to say it's not a negative number, but it is lesser than 50. And let's just put a negative number, like minus 40, and it's going to say a number is a negative number. So that is how we check for values, and we check if what our user inputted. So for example, if we created a program and we needed our user to input something, and if our user thinks he's smart and inputs something that shouldn't be inputted at all, we're just going to make an if and forbids him, and that forbids him entering anything that shouldn't be entered. So for example, we want our user only to enter numbers that are positive, so we just make an if. So let me just delete this. So let's just say please input a positive value, and if he does that, right, so I don't need this, if he does that, let's just say if value is lesser than 0, see out error, right? Let's just print an error. and if it's not, let's just do nothing. Alright, so now let's run it and enter a positive value, so it does nothing. And if we input a negative value, we're going to say error. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. I hope you guys understood what if branching is, and in the next tutorial we'll be learning another form of if and else, but it's just a little bit modified. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you bear with me with the rest of the tutorials, and I hope you guys learned something new. And yeah.